All right. Well, welcome to the One More Podcast. Today, our guest is Mr. Tim Lenoir. Thank you for joining us all the way from Brooklyn down here to Jacksonville, Florida.
Thank you.
Absolutely. We've also got my man on the ones and twos over there, Mr. Charlie Walker, producing us.
All right.
So, Charlie, thanks for joining us today. Greatly appreciate you here. You're always here. You're just not always on the mic. So, it's great to have you today.
Glad to be part of it, buddy.
Yeah, man. Absolutely.
Running sound and talking on my big microphone here.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. So, Tim, obviously all the way from New York.
Yeah.
Born and raised, though, right here in Jacksonville.
So not born. I was born in Washington State. Moved all over the place growing up. My dad worked on nuclear power plants and was kind of like a what do they call it? Job shopper. So
Okay.
2 years at a time. So we're almost like army brats. So we moved around all grown up, but ended up in Florida for high school, and then finished college up here, and then stuck around for a while.
Yeah,
So,
college at UNF, right?
yeah.
Swoop.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, absolutely. So great. Well, so you kind of left out of Jacksonville, and what took you to Brooklyn?
The economy. So I was here. I graduated 2005 from UNF with my graphic design degree from UNF. Sorry, repeating myself. And then worked at Zion Rootswear for a couple years. Started going freelance with design, and then when the economy kind of went in the tank in 2008, a lot of people kind of stopped paying me for like freelance
Imagine
work.
that, right?
Yeah. So
Working for free. That sounds weird.
yeah, so it was really kind of like strung out for a little bit, not really with any work, kind of just running around, just trying to find anything. My brother had moved to New York earlier, so in 2010, I kind of just was like, I'm either going to become a bartender or server
Right.
or move up to New York, and slept on a couch for a little bit to kind of get going. And luckily, the design, I guess, industry and everything kind of caught back up a little faster up there, so it kind of just took me there. So
I feel like that sleeping on the couch is always like, it's always like how you know someone's going to make it. Like you've got to take
Yeah,
a
yeah.
moment of like, you know what, I was sleeping on such and such's couch, and now I'm winning a Grammy or,
Yeah.
Design Artist of the Year. That's where it all starts. That's the
I hope.
foundational moment. So I heard you say Zion. Now,
Yeah.
that's the Bob Marley family, right?
So yeah, I worked. Funny enough, back in 2005 when I was graduating, terrible portfolio review too. I barely graduated from UNF. I got like failed in all my portfolios because I was just drawing stuff. They were like, this guy's an illustrator, he's not a designer. So yeah, so I almost failed that. And then yeah, one of my teachers, Dee Colvin, I think she's been married since, so last name's different, but she ended up hooking me up with this company, Zion Rootswear, that was actually the Marley family and the Conley brothers, who own Caribbean Connection here in Jacksonville. So they had partnered with the Marley family to start Zion Rootswear.
Nice.
And yeah, I got a job designing t-shirts, which is what I wanted to do.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So when you were doing that, like, what was your favorite design? Or what was the one that you go, you know what? Like, I see people wearing it. Like, that's it.
Well,
That's the one.
Johnny Cash was one of their licenses.
Nice.
And that was one, like, it was right when Walk the Line, the movie, came out. So
Great movie.
yeah, he got really famous.
Joaquin Phoenix, right?
Yeah.
Great movie.
Johnny Cash in general just was blowing up at the time. So I did this one design for Johnny Cash. It was just like wings and just had cash in like a distressed font, or typeface if you want to be a snob about it. And then stars, and it just looked like an American flag with wings off the side and Cash's name on top. And it became a bestseller over the summer. And that was when I was like, holy cow. And then
Bro, you've probably seen it. Like,
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like I've seen it. Not only that, I feel like I got a friend that wears it.
yeah, well, a lot of the stuff, it was funny too, because Charlie and I actually had gone on vacation up to New York.
is this when we were like,
We're in the Virgin Megastore in
how
Times
old were we?
Square.
Like,
It was 2006, so it was like a year after we
2006?
Yeah, it was a year after I graduated, so I'd been at Zion for a year. But we get to New York, we go to the Virgin Megastore, and it's like you walk in, you're like, oh my gosh, like I designed like this Marley shirt, this like reggaeton shirt that's like random, and then a bunch of Cash stuff. It was wild. So
That's it.
Yeah.
That's when I can't imagine that feeling. It's like, whoa.
yeah, it was one of those things too. You're like the world kind of gets smaller because you're like, I'm serious. Like the office we worked out of, like my old creative director Larry and I worked in an office without windows that was like backed up to a warehouse smaller than this room, and it was just like a shoebox, like a closet almost. And we were designing all this stuff, and then you go to New York in the Virgin Megastore at the time, was like the biggest thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, here's my stuff. Like, this is crazy. So it
I
kind of,
remember there was a guy who was getting arrested
oh
on
yeah,
TV. We were watching. You were like, "Oh, that dude's
it was,
he's wearing my
he
shirt."
was wearing my shirt. It was like on the front page of like the USA Today, this guy getting like yoked up. It was like, oh, I designed his shirt. So
But
yeah,
that kept
And in the
happening.
background, Bad Boys is playing. And you're
Yeah,
like, oh, he's
yeah.
got my shirt on.
He's
This
got my
is
shirt.
great.
This is
But I think the
awesome.
audience would appreciate that because I mean, especially for me as an artist, like trying to figure out like what is that next step that I need, like that one more thing that I
Yep.
need to do to
Mhm.
get to that place where I want to be in my
Well-
life. And Tim, here he is seeing his art, around like the world, I guess, just and but at that point you weren't making nearly what you're making now.
No, I was I got hired. I think I got hired for like 28 grand out of college, which was like a lot of money for me at the time. And I was like,
Right.
I'm rich. I'm finally making money. I know, it was just like the best feeling ever. But it's a consistent paycheck. I wasn't used to that, and I played sports in college, so I never had consistent jobs. So I was, whenever there was an off season, you dig ditches or whatever. Because
Sure.
I worked for a concrete company, and yeah, it was terrible.
The old Ford Probe.
Yeah, drive a Ford Probe around. But yeah, so having a consistent paycheck was amazing. Spent all the money like right away. I mean, I was terrible with money right off the bat. But I forget where I'm going with this.
Well, no, I think you
Yeah.
were talking about like just hitting it big and like
Yeah.
what you made then versus what you made now. So when you were doing that, was the IP theirs? Was all the intellectual property
Yeah.
theirs? So they got to keep all the royalty rights.
Yeah, and
Interesting.
that is kind of the business anyway. They were smart because the Conley brothers, they went to the Marley family and were like, everyone's ripping you guys off. Like everyone is doing bootleg Marley shirts and this and this and this. If you guys just like got your shit together essentially and just went with us, we'll go after all these other people. And so that's how
So they got a firm to go represent them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they were smart enough to be able to go in, and then they'd go to trade shows in Vegas, and there's stories of like Mike, one of the owners, just like ripping stuff off of people's booths and be
Like,
like,
no,
"Yeah,
that's
it's mine.
mine.
Yeah, it's mine.
That's
It's
mine."
mine. Get it out of here."
Wow.
So
That's
I didn't
legit.
know that. That's cool.
That's legit.
yeah, but no, those guys are great though.
Yeah.
Like, and they were also really instrumental in helping me in New York because I had left Zion. I just wasn't made for 9 to 5 work.
Sure.
And it was just tough.
Dude, he would get up every morning. Like I remember, because I was the guy sleeping on your couch,
Yeah.
And I thought at one point it would be a great idea for me to like move out to like off 295 back before like Nocatee was there.
Oh
And
man.
my Josh, his other, like we call ourselves the Three Amigos since we were in college.
Okay.
One of our like other best friends. So Josh and I, we moved out there thinking this is gonna be really good. And all I did after my shows, I get out of my shows at like 2 a.m.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I can't drive home now. So now instead of living in Jacksonville Beach, I'm just sleeping on your couch in Jacksonville Beach.
Which
and,
was fun because I would sleepwalk and
but every morning I remember like you would get up with your coffee
yeah.
and you'd be like, "Boom, boom," but you'd still make it out the door and make it to work and come home and show us all these amazing things that you created. And that's one of the reasons why I really wanted to like have you on the show, is because you are a guy who amongst so many creators that I know has had this sustainable self-control and this focus, laser focus, that no one else has ever had. And I
Yeah.
do believe that's why you've gotten here. But how do we get other people to have that focus? It's like,
Yeah.
it's hard.
Well, it's easy when you know what you want to do. And that's the one thing of like, with family members and things that like people just don't know what they want. And I have a younger brother that lived in Jacksonville and kind of spinning his wheels for years and like never knew what he wanted. And like I in college knew within like 2 years into my I was going to be a physical therapist. Like you, Ryan, I got an elective, which is an art class, and it turned into a career. I was like, I want to paint. I want to be a painter. I'm a good painter. I loved art, and I just wanted to make money. But then, yeah, I figured it out really quickly. I was like, went to my teacher. I was like, I want to do this for a living. How do I do it? He goes, graphic design. So I was like, all right, cool. I'll just do that then. And that was it. So I made the decision at 19 of what I wanted to do. And I'm competitive. I played sports. So it's like, I want to be good at what I do. I want to make the best thing. I don't want people to call me out for anything. So it's like you laser focus, but it's also like an ego. You're like,
Sure.
you're like, I want to make cool stuff and I want people to like it. And I want people that I like to like my stuff. So it's really that. And you just go after it. And I just got lucky enough to fall backwards into things that just kind of kept me going in the right direction. Like, I don't think a lot of it's hard work and putting yourself in the right position, but a lot of it too is just knowing what you want to do. And,
Right.
And like we say, you're one more. It's like, I know what I'm doing next. It's like the next step is like I see it. I've already, in my mind, I already know that like the next thing I want to do is create my own clothing line.
But you didn't know necessarily what the outcome was going to be when you took those
No.
steps. You just knew that you needed to make a step either out of something or towards something.
Yeah.
And you were bold enough to do those.
But I think there was a manifestation too, like in college when I failed my portfolio review. It was a really like crazy moment where I was like, do I just quit this and start something else? Because it was really like I worked really hard on it, and I showed up to my portfolio review with like T-shirts that I screen printed myself, posters that I had made and designed and did art on. And I was just like a little kid at like crafts fair essentially, and I just got crapped on the whole time. So I like come up from that. I'm like, man, what am I doing wrong? And then my teacher who gave me the internship or told me about the internship that it turned into a job was like, what do you want to do? And I was like, screw this. I don't care about graphic design. I just want to make cool shit for my friends and artists. And I want to work for bands. And I like literally described like the job that I'm doing now. So,
Right.
And it's cool. And then like Charlie was like at the time was the up and coming biggest act in Jacksonville. So like I'm doing all his stuff. It's like our buddy Ryan with Split Tone, they came up and I'm like doing all their stuff. Then the Rich and the Bricks started hiring me to do like their posters for like, their nights.
You're welcome.
Charlie.
I'm kidding.
Charlie, man.
Hey, no,
I still do your stuff. Man.
So then after Zion,
yeah.
you moved to Brooklyn. And while you're at Brooklyn, the next step was to Universal?
No. So I was freelancing with Zion while I was there, but the first job I got was designing underwear.
Oh, yeah. We got to talk about this.
So hilarious.
Please tell me it was...
It was
women's underwear?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. It was. Here's the funny thing. It's men's underwear.
Yeah, I got you.
But we've got.
He wasn't designing the underwear.
No, I was designing like the prints and patterns.
Yeah.
So I was working for like a company that had the license to Lucky Brand.
All zoomed in.
Oh yeah. So I was the one-stop shop. So I was the graphic designer. So I was doing the packaging. I was airbrushing.
Charlie's laughing at this kid stuff.
Oh,
that was a softball pitch, by the way.
I was airbrushing the packaging. My creative director too there he's amazing. I'm still like really close with him, David. And he was just like he was like, please just airbrush the religion out. And I was like, what do you? And I was like, oh gosh. And then I saw and it was a Jewish company, so
gotcha.
You can imagine. So yeah, but it's actually really hard to do. But I got my sister an internship with the women's department of this. So she's airbrushing like nipples out of bras, and I'm airbrushing like wieners and stuff. And I'm sitting here like, can we switch jobs, man? Like this is terrible.
You're like, I don't know about you, but I am ready to go have a drink after this.
It was fun. Yeah, one of my friends would always be like, dude, we need to take you to a strip club. You've been seeing too many wieners today. But that was a good job because it was one of those first starter kind of things when you get to the city. And I was 27 when I moved there, so I was skipping the whole you got to earn it, you got to like take your internship and make peanuts in the city. And I kind of skipped that and went to what I thought was a lot of money, a decent paying job. And it still was just, you got like 4 roommates and you're living in Brooklyn and whatever. But but I was interning with Zion the whole time. Or not freelancing with Zion the whole time. And then from there, Zion got bought by Universal Music.
Right.
And they kind of were like, yeah, I know you rely on this. I was on retainer with them. And it was just one of these things. I came back from a vacation. They were like, we got sold and we don't have any work for you anymore. So I was like, oh,
that's lovely.
Yeah.
Great. This is how it works.
And everybody in New York's got a hustle. So that was my hustle. And I'm like, oh man, what do I do? So I reached out to an old creative director that was working at this company, Bravado, back in the day. And Charles was like, yeah, we got a lot to talk about. And I was like, what are you talking about? So like, I hit him up, and this was like January, like 2013. And then he's like, yeah, so we bought Zion. And I was like, what? Bravado's this small merch label that I had done some work for, didn't get a whole lot of traction on, but whatever. They knew I lived in New York. And so then he's like, well, what do you think about a senior design position over here? And I was like, okay. And I was like, wait, Bravado? And he's like, yeah, we got bought by Universal. And then we bought Zion. So I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, you can be a senior designer here. We know your work. We know you.
So Universal, much larger platform.
Huge.
I mean, the word itself, right? So now we're taking on more artists, more opportunities, more design rights, designing more for other other artists out there. So who were some of like, those some names of some people you were designing stuff for?
First job there was the Rolling Stones.
Well, that one's a tough one,
Yeah,
right?
it was
Goodness
crazy.
gracious.
So I'm a workhorse. So like I design quickly. You can probably tell by the way I talk. I'm like, whoa, I get like super amped and then like just go. But design wise, I'm the same way. Like I know I have a process. I do a lot of illustration, but I work quickly. So that was my thing.
So you're you're not new to the business, but you're new to Universal, and they're like,
Yeah.
"Hey, here you go. You know what? We're not going to warm up. Just give them one of the big acts. We're going straight. Rolling Stones has a legacy, has a catalog, has a huge fan base following.
Yeah.
Go get them." What was the meaning behind that? Was it trying to like re-energize the band to a different demographic? Is that what they were trying to do, or were they just like, "Man, you know what? We think you are the guy that matches this. Go get them."
So the Stones are always, and if you look at their discography and everything they do, are always trying to be relevant and present and of the time. They
Makes
don't
sense.
want anything that looks vintage. Most of their stuff, like we just, I think, recently started doing, they call them like parking lot t-shirts, but like what looks like a bootleg shirt you'd buy in the parking lot. They just started doing that, and I think that's just for retail. Most of their merchandise, and correct me if I'm wrong if you go back and look, but most of it's done by the most relevant artist of the time.
So this is a huge compliment to you.
It is.
This is like a big deal.
I wasn't doing a lot of the crazy creative in it. I was doing a lot of like the, hey, they're going to be touring at all these arenas, and it's the football arenas. So can you create a line of like clothing, cut and sew clothing that works with the arenas and stuff? So it'd be like, oh, it's make the tongue into like a buffalo, and then turn that into like the Buffalo arena, Buffalo Bills,
like that.
but don't use the NFL because we don't have approval.
Right. Make it look like it, but don't make it look like it. Right.
But
don't do it.
They call it ad mat art, but like the ad mat's usually done by some uber famous artist.
Okay.
And then you take that and then you just cut it apart and do whatever you want with it.
Makes sense.
And then and then they have like usually one-off posters for each one of the venues. So then you're kind of in charge of either curating other creatives to kind of do that or doing it yourself.
How fine of a line do you have to walk for that trademark? How fine of a line do you dance around like logo infringement, everything infringement on that?
We have lawyers, or we had lawyers there at
Universal.
At Universal that their whole job, and there's a lot of it that happens because even the artists, if Kanye comes out with a song, and there's like a lot of times it takes a while for it to come out because they have to get approval from like every sample he's gotten, every person that's on the thing, like everyone has to check in, and they all have lawyers, and everyone needs to battle it out.
And they gotta go, the old Vanilla Ice, the
yeah. So
mine goes that one, that's it.
Same thing with the design.
Charlie's Loud. Remember that?
Not
no, it's just it's a duh. It's an upward.
He actually testified to that, which is hilarious.
Yeah, it's great.
And then the story goes, Suge hung him over a building, and it all went away.
And the duh was no more.
Yeah.
Death
row.
Yeah.
You don't want to mess with that. All right.
That's Snoop Dogg
live.
Yeah.
Snoop Dogg now.
Yeah.
He's with Martha Stewart. We're good.
That's right. So sorry, I'm hijacking the conversation here. So back to the
you have to walk a tightrope, but the lawyers are usually telling you what to do and not to do. So if you do something and they're like, you can't get away with this, you're like, oh, okay. But it's like you can't trademark color. You can't do that. So you're like, oh, we're going to Kansas City. Let's use yellow and red.
Right.
And you can't,
and you can't trademark letters.
No,
right?
Of course not.
And
it's already
so it's all you have the opportunity to put it together and make it work.
And it's branded already too. Like the tour gets like branded with something. So it's like this was I think it was a 14 on Fire tour. So it was like, oh, here's the 14 on Fire tour. So it's this
makes sense.
Yeah. So you're just like, okay, run with this. So you kind of use the ad mat art, which is like essentially your style guide, and then you just run with it.
So then after Universal, Rolling Stones, did you get another artist after that, or was that who you were there with the entire time? So give me who were like some of the big names. I mean, Rolling Stones is pretty darn big.
They were big, and
so let's go like genres, everything. Start throwing them out there.
Man, so everything. I started doing stuff for Tim McGraw right away, which was hilarious.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean not hilarious. It was awesome, but he's a funny guy.
Extreme, yeah.
Yeah. And then let's see, Kanye West, Lady Gaga. The Beatles had the license move over there, so I was working on the Beatles stuff. shoot.
So we're not talking about just.
You've done Bieber.
I was gonna say
Gomez.
Justin
Bieber,
Bieber,
Gomez.
Selena Gomez.
We're not talking about like, we're not talking about a one track go. Here, we're going to give you remember the movie that one thing with Tom Hanks? What was the movie called? Where it's like he got one hit and he was representing a band. That Thing You Do.
Yeah, Thing You Do.
You're not getting that Thing You Do band that sings that one song going around. You're literally like talking about multi-platinum, legendary, Hall of Fame, rock and roll, hip hop. I mean, you name it, artists. And so we go on tour. Let's say my daughter goes to a concert to any of those artists. She's taking down a shirt. There's a chance. There's a shirt. That's what you did.
Yeah.
You put that together.
Yeah.
Between the years of 2000, let's say 10, 11 to when?
Now.
Still doing it now. Still doing it now. That's awesome. So I can say that because my daughter actually went and saw Justin Bieber here in concert.
Yeah.
And got a shirt. And I'm like, you know what? You probably did that.
I didn't do those because my thing with Bieber last time, I kind of cleaned up a couple pieces that they had. They had, his album cover, I think, for the last album had this weird glow on him or something. So they'd hit me up. Universal, I still work with them. I'm freelance now. I don't work with any label directly, but
I'm going to add something. I think it's a really important note to make that if anyone who's listening is a freelance or any kind of artist, is that there's I kind of lost my train of thought there. What was the last thing that you just said?
I'm talking about Bieber's
cleaning up
freelance.
Yeah, sometimes we get so focused on being like this one specific, but there's so many avenues like you could be
of artistry
that you could still be part of it, where you're not the one who maybe did the design, but you're the one that's doing the final edit on the design. So
and perfect example of that, Kanye West. So like he's pretty relevant right now because he was going on tweeting a lot last night or Instagramming. So we worked on his stuff, and I was in the office. I wasn't working on the Yeezus tour, but that was 2013, I think. My friend Nick was working on that. But then when Life of Pablo came out, he did this like crazy, like 23 pop-up shops across the country or across the world. Actually, I think there were some in other countries, and it was like the week before we were told this was going to happen.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, we normally got like a month or two before this stuff. So anyway, and we're getting like pretty much hit up like right before it, and none of the art is our art. It's like we hired this guy to do it. You got to make this stuff happen. And then like our A&R dude at the time is like, he's like a super fan of Kanye, so he's like, absolutely, we got this. And then just like, guys, you're not gonna be able to sleep for the next 3 nights because we gotta get this done. So like you said, so you're sitting there designing crazy, like setting all this artwork up, talking to printers, doing all this stuff, but it's like insane. And I was in charge of like the Life of Pablo stuff. So like this guy Virgil, who's passed away, Virgil Abloh, he started Off-White. He was the creative director for Louis Vuitton and was Kanye's like really close friend, he passed away last year. Actually might have been earlier this year. Anyway, like he was in charge of all the Yeezus stuff, and so he was a really good conduit and kind of like would mellow Kanye out, and then Kanye would send you the work. He'd kind of distill it and get you to. But then Life of Pablo happened. Virgil's doing his thing, and he's uber successful. He's like to the moon. So like no one was like filtering what Kanye wanted, and it was just like coming in piecemealed. I was in charge of working on some of it, and it was just a nightmare. So yeah, like part of this job was like navigating those personalities and navigating this like
you got a guy like Kanye, super talented but all over the place, right? I mean, but
and I'll never
crazy talented
stuff
coming from all different directions, trying to get your arms around it. And then it was nice to have that middleman there kind of filtering and kind of saying, this is where we're going to put it all together. It's how we wanted to look. But did you ever get a pair of Yeezys from him? Did he ever send that to you?
I think we were given the opportunity to be on the list
the waiting list to get them.
Well, like not even
to buy.
No, to buy, but like it was.
Thanks.
Honestly, though, I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot
because you could have bought them and then resold them, right?
Man, if I would have gotten on the list to be the Red October, it's like back in the day, I could have bought those for whatever. I was on the list, if I was
buying for what, $2,000, turn around and flip them for
not even. I could have bought them for $300 and turn them around for like $25,000 now or something stupid.
So what's interesting, going back to this point about pop-up shops. So I always find this interesting because in Jacksonville we don't have that, right? Let's call that what it is. We don't have a pop-up shop,
right?
In New York, man, I went up there and I'm walking around and I'm like, oh, hey, my daughter and my son and their friends, they want to go to these pop-up shops. And I'm like, oh, well, just give me the address. And they're like, oh, it's a pop-up shop. And I'm like, well, there's got to be an address to this pop-up shop. And I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, well, they just started today? And they're like, no, they started it today.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's no way they started this place today. And like in New York, this is a thing. You just
Yeah.
pop up, you're like, whatever, we're doing it. It's good.
Yeah, that's
Here
usually,
it's like you got to have a permit. You
Yeah.
got to talk to the mayor. You got to get some stuff done before the police got to approve it. You're not just popping up in Jacksonville, Florida, but New York.
yeah.
They're like, whatever, man. Hey, listen, everything's shut down anyway, so go ahead and throw a shop up.
My buddy Mark Braddock actually does the 904 pop up here, which is dope. What are you doing? Oh no.
Charlie was getting a picture of the gentleman taking pictures, right?
Oh,
taking
look at
pictures of
us.
us. So
Yeah,
Charlie's
we're
getting a
doing
picture
good.
of the. That's called picture in picture, by the way.
Picture.
Hey, I'll picture Ryan any day. Man.
No, the
What's a pop-up picture?
Yeah, the pop-up picture. No, but my buddy Mark Braddock actually does the pop-ups 904 pop-up here, which is dope, but he has to do he has to work through the city and do all this stuff. In New York, you just like there's all these spaces. I probably even better now with COVID cuz everything's been cleared out and kind of whatever. But in
Yep.
Soho, a lot of times there's just these like open lofts, and then these guys will start it and then just tweet it, and it's
live action.
live action, and then yeah, I thought it was lit.
Yeah, live action in
live
Soho.
action.
That's a
But nuts.
that's a good area too.
Yeah,
I do
Soho's
like
fun.
that. It's one of my favorite burger joints over there, Soho.
Where at?
Over by NYU, which is probably all of Soho.
Yeah.
But
just above.
it's a place, a burger and shake place, and the milkshakes they serve are like legit. Like if you get a birthday cake milkshake, they put an entire piece of birthday cake on top of the milkshake.
Oh man.
I think it's either called like Black Top
Okay.
or I don't know. It's you walk downstairs to eat in the restaurant, and they've got their own drafts, and they've got these amazing. Literally, you go there, the burgers are all like it's like something off of like Diners, Drivers, and Dives.
Yeah.
There's the assortment of stuff, but the milkshakes are just completely legit.
Awesome. Yeah,
We've gone there every time with our kids, and they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, this is great."
Yeah, I plenty of spots where you can go there and just indulge. And,
Oh, just and be incredible.
Get it. Oh.
So I will say that I will say the other thing is you haven't lived. Charlie laughs. You haven't lived. You played chess in the middle over there at Soho
yeah, those
against
guys
one of the masters.
Those guys are insane. Yeah, I'm terrible. I watched the Queen's Gambit, whatever, and or Kings. I don't even
Yeah.
know what it is. But
King's game.
yeah, there it is. That's how bad I am. Yeah. So my brother and his girlfriend are like super into chess now, and they're gamers anyway. They like playing the games. I'm so bad, but yeah, those guys are masters, and it's pretty cool to see.
Well, we were up there in the heart of it in December, so it's we got the nice fall weather. Everyone's in a beanie or toboggan, whatever you want to call it. And I mean, I'm sitting there and I'm like so nostalgic, and my wife's like with the kids, and she's like, "Are you gonna play?" And I'm like, "I'm kind of scared to step to one of these guys because the older they are, the wiser they are."
Yeah.
And they kind of there's a little bit of a hustle game going on there too.
Totally.
So
That's all
I
it
sit
is.
down and the guy's like, "Hey, it's $5." I'm like, "Oh, we'll throw $5 on this."
Yeah.
And I told my wife, I was like, if this particular game goes longer than 3 minutes, I've done pretty good because this clock, you got to hammer this clock and go.
Yeah.
And I did make it past 3 minutes with him.
Nice.
And I couldn't tell if he was humoring me in front of my kids, like if he was letting me go, because you hear me tell the kids, if we go longer than 3 minutes, Dad's done good.
Yeah,
so I
yeah.
could kind of feel like that. But as soon as we crossed the 3-minute mark, it was like 2 moves later, he had me. I'm like, Dad,
Oh,
gummit.
man.
Yeah, played right into his hand, literally. But it's nostalgic because sitting out there thinking that Searching for Bobby Fischer type deal thing.
Yeah,
And that's where they
exactly.
filmed that. And Lawrence Fishburne and all those guys were out there during that scene. So
That's so cool.
cool moment. So who are some other artists you're currently doing for?
So a big artist, they're not with Universal anymore, but I started working with them, and it kind of changed a little bit of the path of my career. Was Guns N' Roses.
GNR.
Yeah, the OGs.
Yeah.
So I love this band,
Huge fan base.
and I love the band. Like they're
Okay, so now you've got someone that you're like, this
Yeah.
is my band. This is who I'm ready to go work
they're
with.
just so cool. And I remember being in middle school, like
Yeah.
listening to, and I was like, man, these guys. Are
Appetite for
awesome.
Destruction, Lose
Yes.
Your Illusions 1 and 2.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm all in on
It's
this.
so cool. Yeah, you're just like, this is a cool band. So anyway, they got back together. So Duff Slash and Axel in like 2016, I think, decided like they're getting the band back together. They're gonna do it, and Universal had the rights to it. So their first like Slash said, they asked him in an interview, I think in 2010, like, when are you gonna ever tour with them again? He goes, never, not in this lifetime. Like, when are you ever gonna go back to GNR? Not in this lifetime. So they
Right.
named the tour Not in This Lifetime tour.
Smart.
So perfect. So that was like a huge thing in my work. I'm working on it. My creative director Charles at the time is just like, he's a big fan, and he's friends with the manager, and like it's just like everything worked out. So we started working on that, doing the posters, doing everything. Super fun work. So you're like illustrating everything. They love illustration. They love like put a skull on it. You know, it's like perfect. Like, so I'm drawing all this stuff, and then finally they were like, the manager, or no, it was John Varvatos, the fashion designer. They're doing a pop up shop in like the John Varvatos shop is in the old CBGB like music venue
Okay.
in the East Village in Manhattan. So it's like it's already kind of rock and roll nostalgia. And they were like, oh, we're gonna do a pop up shop in John Varvatos for the 2016 whatever. We want to do painted leather jackets. And I'm like, all right. So my whole come up was painting. Like I love painting. Like the only reason I do design is because I like to paint. And I was like, I went to my painting teacher and he was like, go be a graphic designer. So it's like, all right, cool. So like here I am, like they're like, Tim, do you want to paint these 6 jackets for the John Varvatos shop? I was like, yeah, sure. And I'm like, I'm about to go on vacation in like 4 days. It's 6 jackets, and it's the Guns N' Roses cross. Actually, I'll show you here.
And these are the ones the band wore?
So these are the ones. So it's the band did wear it. Yeah, I'll show you here. So it's the cross.
I feel like I've seen that so many times.
Yeah. So this is an iconic piece. That was designed back in like
Well, that's the Appetite for Destruction skull.
Like
yeah.
1987, I think.
Yeah.
So anyway, so they hit me up to like, can you paint this? So I like did a black and white version, 3 of those and 3 of these. So Slash ends
I was
up.
going to say, of course, right? Slash wears it.
And it's like tagged Duff, you know, the bassist.
Yeah.
I'm legend. So anyway, so
I'm so legend.
Yeah, so legend.
I am legend.
So I get to do this, and so I paint them, and then I'm going on vacation. So I'm like, I'm going out to Washington to go on vacation, and I paint it. I finish it by like 11 o'clock the night before. I'm like, everything's done. Just send it out. You know, the next day they had a courier take it down to John Varvatos. I land in Seattle, and I wake at like I don't have a very big Instagram following or anything, but like I had gotten tagged by John Varvatos and like woke up in Seattle, like landing, and like holy crap, and I had like 500 new Instagram followers, and like it was really cool.
That's a big flight.
Yeah, it was insane. And again, I'm not good at social media, so I don't have a huge presence on there, but this was one of those things where you're just like, holy cow, like this is amazing.
Yeah,
this is how it works. I didn't take advantage of it at all. I'm terrible. So
oh no.
yeah, but it turned into me being like the leather jacket guy. So then afterwards I'm like painting a leather jacket for Slash's girlfriend. I'm painting like the manager every time they go on tour gets a new leather jacket. So
that's awesome.
So it's pretty amazing.
So they keep coming back for more. I mean,
yeah,
this is fantastic.
Yeah, I finished 1 month and a half ago for the European tour they just did. It was a MC Escher like holding the globe kind of thing. My buddy Arian actually did the artwork for a poster in Europe, and then I painted the jacket with like the graphic on it.
So you tell me like I'm a huge GNR fan. They're fantastic. So you know their catalog.
Yeah.
But then you were telling me earlier you've worked with the likes of Nas, Kanye. What do you do like when you're not equally as, and I'm not saying you aren't, but I mean, do you gravitate towards their music, or do you have to listen to their music to get a vibe for what you're going to design, or how does that work?
It's really it did open up. It opened up a lot for me because, like, not that I was like shut off, but I was snobby about music. Like, I was like, oh, I liked Modest Mouse and Built to Spill before anybody else knew who they were. And I'm like a snob about it. But then
now you're calling. Are you the guy that's like sell out?
Yeah,
you are.
Oh, well, I was. I'm not anymore. Now I'm like, man, that Bieber album.
Yeah, and I'm crushing it. Crushing it.
But Nas is an OG. So like, I was like, man, like Illmatic. I got the chance to do
album.
his like I think it was his 20th anniversary of Illmatic. I got to do an illustration for that. That was sick. I was like, oh man, like he did a poster, he signed the poster. That was one of my earlier jobs.
That's cool.
And again, man, being in New York and then having any chance to get like
close to someone like Nas. Yeah, that's a big deal, man. That's a hometown guy.
Yeah, it feels good. And it's like, not that I've been in New York for 12 years. I would never consider myself a New Yorker because it's like there's pride with that, like people that grew up there. But to just be adjacent and just to be in a place where you're like, all this great stuff happened. Like one of the reasons I was up in New York, one of the times I got inspired was because I watched Dave Chappelle's Block Party, and I loved that. That Block Party thing was amazing. You can even see like J. Cole in the background of it. Like it's so cool. I live 2 blocks away from where that was filmed now.
Oh, that's cool.
So I'm like, man, talk about manifesting like stuff. And then my wife and I are looking at property, or like looking at condos to like possibly purchase up there. And one of them is like on the block, and I was like, man, if that happens, I was like, man, I should have asked for $1 million when I was manifesting this.
Nah, man,
No,
that's cool. That's awesome. So
but yeah,
it forces you to get relevant in
yeah,
their catalog so you can design something that speaks to their audience that
yeah,
they're going to like.
and
And, you know, I imagine even with like Tim McGraw,
yeah,
you know, any of those artists, you've got to get into that catalog and get some sort of feel for like, hey, listen, this is what I'm feeling when I hear this music, and
yeah,
at least get into it with what you want to design and how you want to do it.
yeah. And with Tim McGraw, it's funny because like I mean, he's a legend as well. And almost every country artist, I did really well with the country artists too, because like a lot of the stuff I like to do is like, you know, illustrated, like Whiskey Barrel, kind of like my own
Well, there's a lot of
hand drawn
crossovers
stuff.
between those artists you just described in Guns N' Roses,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Rolling Stones, and country music. I mean, there's a lot of
It's a
the same
lot, yeah.
flavor.
It's a lot of fun. And Tim McGraw it was funny being like one of the first jobs because I remember like it was the first time I got to deal with like celebrity stuff, and I'm not like face to face with them, but like face like emails, you know, and you're just like, hey, change my face on this, and you're like, that's a photo, man. Like, like that's just how you look, man.
Yeah, man.
Um,
Let me
but
airbrush this some
he
more.
didn't like the way he looked in that one, so I was just like, all right, man, cool. And then like I was working for what was it? Casey Musgraves or whatever, and she would send me just like text of her talking and be like, "Hey, I like this hat, but can you make the gradient like start here instead of here?" And I was just like, "This is cool." And she wasn't famous at the time, or as
That's
famous
scary to say. She's pretty friggin' famous now.
now.
She's,
Yeah, but it was funny.
She's out there.
But it was
Voice
funny.
text. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
it was-
that is cool.
But I remember, like, I don't have her number or anything, but I was just like probably piecemeal. There's probably like 5 other managers sent it to me, but it was just like her giving me feedback on the work I did, and then yeah, my coworker Nick was like, dude, how funny is it that she's like winning Grammys now? And
Yeah.
remember when she was sending you like how to make the color gradient on her logo on her hat, like with a video chat? And I was like, yeah, I actually forgot about that. Actually, this is funny. I had a breakup in 2015, and Charlie was nice enough to let me stay with him for like 10 days. And I'd been at Universal for 2 years at this point. So anyway, I'd worked a lot on Imagine Dragons. So I come down and I'm working on a lot of stuff. Anyway, like my friends, the same guy, Nick, got an Imagine Dragons poster, and like him and a bunch of guys in the office like signed it and like sent it to me. And we're like, yo, Imagine Dragons. We're like, yo, Tim, man, like good job. So I'm like bragging about it. I'm out at the bar, like, yo, Charlie, check it out. Imagine Dragons likes my work, man. And like just bragging about it. I get back and they're like, dude, we felt so bad. We all just did that ourselves. They're like, you're not cool. What I call it, I'm a herb.
No, it's like Imagine
What
Dragons.
was,
signed
what was
this.
that game that you used to put the names in, and you had the matching?
Oh, Face Up or whatever.
Yeah, it was Herbert.
Herbert. Yeah, Herb. That's the term. That's my New York like nickname.
I'm gonna find that guy's face and send it
Oh,
to you.
no.
I'm like the happy goober that runs around New York with a smile on his face. Why is this guy so happy?
Jeez.
Herb.
That's cold, man. They signed that.
Yeah, it was embarrassing.
No, they
Mm.
didn't sign it. They didn't sign
No,
it.
No,
It was-
you signed it.
My friends did.
Yeah.
Which, whatever.
Mm.
Imagine Dragons. I still do work for them. They're great. So I love it.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge. So you were also telling me, did I hear, let's see here, was it 50 Cent was another one that you'd done some stuff for?
I've been adjacent. I haven't worked with him directly. Not at all.
You did all magic stuff, right?
Magic stuff. Yeah, 50
Or not
Cent.
all, but stuff.
Yeah, when they came out
What'd
with,
you do for 50 though?
I didn't do anything for him actually. He was one of the. I think we probably did a pitch for him. I might have had some stuff, but like, yeah, random. But like, he's an artist that we like were trying to get, I think, and like never did. We did a lot of stuff. Like he's a Queens-based guy. We did a lot of stuff for Nicki Minaj.
I imagine
Run-
that one had to be a whole nother different type of, what do you call it, design work.
Yeah, that was interesting. That was cool.
I recently just saw her on the VMAs, and by the way, I'm not like a huge music award show guy. And I think my wife just like, oh, let's just see her performance. Especially since we haven't been to concerts much, after
Yeah.
COVID, we've only been to like 4. And she was like, let's just watch it and see what it's like. Nicki Minaj never does not bring, bring it 150%, right?
Yeah, totally.
But this one was basically a compilation of all of her hits.
Oh,
So
wow.
she's showing out because she's winning like the Mecca award for,
Oh yeah.
and she goes out and she ends it with her new song, "Super Freaky Girl," and the title says it all. And you're thinking, this should not be on at 8:30 at night
Yeah. You're like,
on
"Ooh."
any type of cable network.
She's got to compete with WAP though.
But I mean, they're always trying to one up each
Yeah,
other at this point.
exactly. Queens
Yeah,
of the Bronx.
that's a whole nother situation. I feel like that the music industry now, with the takeover is how I mean, you look back and you look at the ridicule that like Two Live Crew took for what they did, and you look
Yeah,
at what's
yeah.
going on right now. You got to be thinking that's child's play compared to what you're hearing right now.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's kind of nuts.
Lil Kim did some stuff, but yeah, it is. You also, I don't know. So much of it's like clickbait now too. It's
Mhm.
like, what can we get that'll like make somebody mad enough to tweet about it to where now it becomes a hit because they got mad.
Right.
So it's all that too. So I don't know. It's so much, and I didn't, just working in the building at Universal, to see how much of this stuff is like, the labels know what they're doing.
Yeah.
I mean,
The
there was,
A&R reps know.
yeah, and there was a whole story too, like Lil Nas X when Old Town Road came out, and like how he had been like a Nicki Minaj super fan and was like tweeting about her all the time and this and that, and then like I guess he had a bunch of like Instagram followers or like YouTube followers. Anyway, so then he ends up getting hooked up with like some record execs, and then like the whole there was a story that like all that was like made up and fabricated about like who was it?
Billy Ray.
Finding the song and being like, that is country music. Like they kind of made it up themselves, like the whole narrative of that.
Yeah, so they take a guy that's clearly been there, done that.
Yeah.
That's got that one-hit wonder label, and you don't want to label someone that, but that's what it was labeled.
Yeah.
It's got a very successful daughter, and they're like, he's in the news, he's relevant, but he's not right there anymore. Let's just bring him in here and do this and make this up, and here we are today.
Well, I mean, the labels are good at that, and like they. I
mean, he's no Kane Brown. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
No Kane Brown.
He knows what he's doing, and they all know what they're doing. So I don't know. I love when artists are making money and doing their thing, and if it takes that to do it, that's the thing that I'm struggling with as an artist myself. It's like I feel like I'm left in the past a bit, but yeah, it's like seeing how, it's all Instagram, it's all Twitter, it's all this, and like there'd be guys standing in front of the building handing out CDs, like, yo, here's my mixtape, and I'm like, man, I can't even play this. Like I don't even have a CD player anymore. And I'm like,
that's happening now.
It's still, yeah. And like people be like, yo, listen to my stuff, and like begging to get in. People are trying to get into the building to get it,
just into Universal.
Yeah, and like it was cool because I was standing out there one time, and there was a one of the bigger ups, higher ups or whatever at Def Jam walked out, and I can't remember what his name was, but some guy was doing something. The guy's like, listen, man, he's like, I'm gonna tell you straight up, he's like, don't even try this shit. He's like, try to get yourself an online presence, get a YouTube channel that's got followers, get followers on Instagram. He's like, because all we're gonna do is take your money. And he was like, we'll give you an advance, but he's like, you pay that back to us. He's like, build up your following and do that. And like kind of gave people like real advice. I was like, man, that's kind of cool. Like,
yeah,
this dude like knows the game.
You don't really want in here.
Yeah, it's like, you don't want none of this shit, man.
Dewey Cox.
Yeah.
Dewey Cox, you don't want none of this.
You don't want none of this.
But a lot of these kids, man, I feel bad. They sign these deals with these labels, and they're signing 360 deals, so they're giving away their merch rights and all this other stuff.
Well, I mean, I've been signed twice, and I can tell you that, like, even though the deal wasn't like that level of a deal, I quickly realized, because it was still the same structure, that I'd be locked in for 3, and by that I mean like 3 albums, and yeah, like you're saying, you're ultimately responsible for paying back everything.
Yeah.
And even when you think that you're getting like little like spiffs, and it's like you're getting hooked up with different things, you're paying for that stuff 9 times
everything.
out of 10.
Yeah.
So
yeah, there'd be stuff like there was a guy, designer, who had the Panda song on Kanye's Life of Pablo album, which, man, I love the guy. Like he was in the office all the time, super high energy. But he was the guy who was like, Panda. And like, I got bros in Atlanta. Like he was awesome. This guy was amazing. And he'd come into the office, and I'd be like walking to the bathroom, and he'd be like, yo, man, you like this shirt? I'm like, I love that shirt. He's like, yo. He was awesome. I painted
He's the hype man too.
Yeah, dude, he was awesome. I painted a jacket for him. But then like, then all of a sudden it's like, he's not as relevant. His songs aren't as relevant. I think he's still got a really good like Instagram following, so I think he's still doing things
that way.
Yeah, but like, I don't know, man. After he fell off a little bit, it's like, oh, we don't care about you anymore. And it's just like, and then they didn't release his next album. They don't do that. So like, I don't know. I'm not against labels. They pay me still, and like it's great. But like, it's also.
I mean, you're not actually working directly for it, because
No.
you were a W-2, right?
I was, yeah, at
And
Universal.
that, which is awesome as an artist to get to say that you actually got to do that.
To get slips.
And also thinking about the fact that like you post your stuff on like social media after you've like already been paid for it pretty much, as
Yeah.
compared to other people who are posting on social media, hoping that by posting it on social media that
Yeah.
they'll actually get some traction and maybe, you know, something in return for it.
That's
Right.
that's been a hard part too, because
I mean, that's probably why you don't care to
Well,
be honest, you don't need it.
I forget about it sometimes because there's a lot of the stuff we're working on is like 3 months before it even comes out, and then you have like
You
have a
can't,
lot
yeah,
of
and you can't talk about it.
non-disclosure agreements, and you sign these things, and you're like, I can't do that. And it's like, and then after the fact, it's like,
So I had a question as we're sitting here talking. That's just kind of like, I don't know. It's making me think if I don't ask it now, I'm gonna forget it. Have you ever had someone steal or infringe on your artwork?
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
Matter of fact, how many you want to hear about?
Yeah, no. I mean, I think a lot of my artwork though is it's not mine. It's like I think of it as like the artist drives the art. So it's like,
Fair enough.
yeah,
Yeah,
the
I
people
can see
work for.
that. Yeah.
But there was one time when I was working at Zion back in the day, and I did a bunch of just like random designs for something. And one of our printers, the designer at one of the printers, I think he had like a wakeboarding company or something,
Mhm.
and took like every piece of this design. And,
He's like, I'm totally ripping
yeah,
this
ripped
into
it.
my
I mean,
whiteboard.
I didn't care. It was one of those things. Like it's like the whole like flattery thing. I mean, if you're not, everyone's ripping.
Do you really
everyone off.
believe that? You really believe like intimidation is the highest form of flattery? Because
Yeah.
I don't. That just pisses me off.
So my thing is like, I'm a creative. I'll come up with a better idea.
I'm like,
Yeah.
no, whoever came up with that is the person that
Yeah.
was stealing everything from everyone. It's like, don't worry about it. It's flattery.
Yeah. Well, my thing is like, it's flattery because like I'm just gonna.
You can sell that 10 ways from Sunday, man.
Yeah.
That ain't gonna fly with me.
Charlie, you mind if I grab another glass?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah,
I feel like I like the imitation thing, like, because it's okay. Think about it like this: it's like if you're a creative, you're like, I'm just gonna come up with a better idea next, So if I'm like, all right, I got this, like,
yeah, I could see that.
it's
I
like,
could see that.
you're ripping off
that-
what I already did.
Agreed.
You
But
know?
my thing is this: like when you look at like competitive advantages, and you look at, artwork as a competitive advantage. It's something that you've created. It's gonna have a shelf life.
Yeah,
And let's say that shelf life of existence prior to, the internet and prior to just someone just jacking it. Normally, let's say it's 6 months.
yeah,
Now it's like 6 weeks.
6 weeks, yeah,
It's
or like
maybe
2
not
days
even
if you're-
maybe not even that. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's just there because whatever, it literally gets taken. Thank you guys. It gets taken and all of a sudden you're going, wait a minute, like really?
yeah,
Like I worked countless hours on that and I expect a level of return at 6 months.
yeah,
Now I'm getting a level of return at 6 weeks. And normally the person that steals it from you, they're not selling it more expensive. They're usually undercutting the price.
yeah.
That's why they took it, and they're like, oh, if I could take this, steal it, cut it, and
Yeah,
do it this
exactly.
way. I don't know.
Easier.
I think back to that movie American Gangster where he's like, he's talking about, he's like, no, that's the blue magic. You can't cut it
You can't,
and
yeah.
you can't dilute it and make it something else. And that's my product,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
a terrible analogy, but that's kind of how I feel about it. One of my favorite movies, by the way.
It's a great movie.
Yeah, oh man, top 5.
I was
Top 5.
just thinking about it too, like earlier, like talking about like movies like that. My movie I like associate with the most is The Usual Suspects. And
Great movie. Kaiser
Kaiser
Soze.
Soze.
Kaiser Soze.
So that's where
Kevin Spacey, dude. That's a fantastic.
and that's where I feel like I want my career to lie. It's
Okay.
like I want to be the dude that is doing all the work. No one even expects it or suspects it from him, but you're like, at the end of the day, you're like, hey. Because I mean, it's like I've got a lot of friends that are really good on Instagram, doing a lot of good things, and like the people that are like successful at this stuff and can navigate the Instagram side of it too. Man, I'm like so proud of them, and I'm stoked. And I'll give flowers to anybody. Like if you're a creative and you're making money, like I'm stoked. Like do your thing. Like it's great. I'm personally terrible at it. I'm trying to get better, but I give myself a break, and I'm just like, man, no one knows about what I'm doing, but I'm still, putting food on my plate and providing for my wife and my family of dogs and cats.
Yeah.
Then I'm doing a good job, and
Not just any dogs.
not just any dog, the cutest wiener dogs on the planet.
Dogs.
Yeah. But yeah, like so that's my thing. But yeah, the Kaiser Soze thing is something I always like come back to. I'm just like, listen, man, I don't need the public recognition the way like other people maybe do, and I do it because I love doing this stuff. And this is what I wanted to do, and it's like the only way I can make a living without.
Yeah, there's a term I use for that. It's called flying below the radar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just want to fly below the radar, be successful. You don't need to know I'm here. If I'm here, I'm not. So
Yeah.
be it,
Well, it's talking to people that are really successful in that space too. Yeah. What's going on over there?
Yeah.
It's fine. Guys, you don't know I have narcolepsy. Tim knows I have narcolepsy.
Am I putting you to
our
sleep,
our
Charlie?
audience does now. Oh,
Sorry,
Lord.
guys.
Sorry
No
about
one's
that.
gonna see that, but
Yeah.
I mean, hey,
Yeah, yeah.
people gotta live with things. All right.
Yeah.
Alright. No.
That's all good. No, but I definitely agree with you, man. That below the radar,
yeah.
being kind of smooth and not having to put it out there. Plus, I mean, you're doing it the way that I consider is a sustainable way.
Yeah.
Social media waves come and go, but man, if you're making money, not having to promote that kind of situation, you're
Yeah.
doing it. And I mean, obviously you can see your passion. The leather jackets are super,
Yeah.
super dope.
Thank
Those
you.
look awesome. Would you say that's your favorite project you've done, or what would be your
Yeah.
favorite project?
I would say favorite projects. Shoot, it kind of changes all the time. I'd say some of the
Is it two categories? Because you're an amazing artist,
yeah. So
and by artist I mean like paint, pencil,
I'd
amazing. But then you
yeah.
also are graphically like inclined, I guess, whatever you want to call it. But like what do you call it when you do like
illustrations.
illustrations
Yeah.
on a computer? What's the name of that?
I mean, same thing. Graphic illustration, whatever. Just illustration. If you're doing
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
anyway, you're amazing at that. That's two different things, right?
Yeah, it's a different muscle. I'd say like the thing I'm most proud of right now, and like kind of like what I've worked on. One of the leather jackets I painted was like a gift to somebody. He was like a French rapper. I forget what his name was. It was like Niles or Riles or something like that. Anyway, like I painted the praying hands on the back of a jacket,
Okay.
and
Oh, you sent that to me.
yeah,
Dude, sick.
it came out really good, and it gave me a lot of confidence. And I was like, wow. I'm like, because I learned how to paint like kind of
Yeah.
traditional oil paints and stuff. So I was like, man, I could like translate this into a leather jacket because I'm just used to painting logos.
Oh, so
and
this is
stuff.
like your first leather jacket.
This wasn't my first. It was my first like photo real
Okay, I got
classical
you.
painting on a leather jacket, and then that got me inspired. So I started being like, all right, so I'm doing skulls on all the guns.
I'm looking up this French rapper, by the way.
I think his name is
I got you.
Riles or something.
I don't want to mess
forget.
your story up. I'm just doing it.
No, I'm just.
There's so
let me
many
see if I
French
can
rappers.
find it.
I just want to know what your favorite one is.
So this is the jacket here.
Oh wow,
So I painted that.
that's ridiculous.
But
That's really
I was
cool.
amped on it. It's this guy.
Yes.
So I
mean,
got
look at the detail in his work.
I know.
And then here's the thing. Like I remember when I was in New York last. I went up to New York last. I went for his wedding, and I fell asleep. You
You
right?
were sick, man.
I know, but I didn't know I was sick at the time. I just
Yeah.
fell asleep in the middle of his dance.
Again, I'm not good at any of this stuff.
But Tim was showing me some of the leather jackets, and he was, things
It's
are
Riles, right?
things are always
R-I-
different.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
RILES. Yeah.
Riles, yeah.
Riles. That's it.
Things are different when you see them actually in person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even with 4K, you get your VR headset on, it's
Oh.
still not the same. And when I saw how the texture of leather, and the way that it is not remotely a flat surface, right?
And that's what I'm
And
painting.
and say it's like a sleeve, right?
Yeah.
And now you got to paint this thing
To where it's going to
around the
lay
sleeve.
around on that sleeve.
So
Yeah.
it's not even really the same picture.
But that was for Shaq, so that was like a 7 foot.
Oh yeah, that was the one I saw when I was at your house. That's the thing. I don't think that Tim can really keep up with all the people he's working with or for. Every time I talk to him, he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm doing something for Shaq right now. I'm doing something for blah blah blah."
Yeah, it was funny too because like that's a separate thing. But like with the Islanders, because the Islanders opened a new arena. I
Okay.
think USB Arena, or I think that's what it's called. Anyway, they hired me to do all these like jackets for the celebrities that they were gonna bring in to like unveil it.
Oh,
And-
that's cool.
And so I was doing these like crazy big sleeved like for Shaq. I mean, he's 7 feet tall. But this was like the night before my wedding. I'm like painting this jacket and trying to get it done. Literally like
Of
dropping it
course.
off at like my friend Leslie's house to like "Hey,
Deliver.
please deliver this. I'm going to my rehearsal dinner now.
But once again, that's a
It's
testament
the life of an
to-
artist.
Yeah.
But not
That's a
most
hustle.
artists. That's the sad thing is that most artists the day before their wedding are not going to do that.
I
But
mean,
I think that's what sets you apart. And
my
what
wife's
also-
not happy about it. She's like, please.
your
stop."
wife does what
Oh, she's a makeup artist and she's
for?
like she does TV and film. So like,
Yeah,
she was
so
just
she's
working-
constantly around famous people.
Yeah, like it's almost like
She's closer to famous people than even you.
I was gonna say like the Herb comment about like "Ah, he's a Herb." That's like so because I'll be like, I worked on Guns N' Roses, and she's like, cool. I was just doing like the makeup for I don't even know Chevy Chase yesterday. Or like just random things. Like she was on Law and Order all the time, and I'm like, can you just
Doom.
let me be a dead body?
Yeah.
And she's like, no. But yeah, all that stuff. She's really talented too.
That's nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
we
your
used
to-
and your brothers, you got 3 brothers,
Yeah, they're
and
all,
you have 2 sisters,
yeah, and they're all doing
and they're all very
creative.
successful, super creative people.
we grew up
In a caboose.
We all grew up homeschooled.
Oh,
In a
sorry.
caboose in Washington for a little bit. But
You guys did own a caboose, right?
Yeah, we lived in a caboose.
See, guys, you're never gonna make it unless you grow up in a caboose. So
It's
it's yeah.
Or sleep on someone's couch.
Yeah, couches and cabooses.
We can all do that, but getting to own a caboose and turn it into a home, they learned at a very young age that what something might be, like the title that's been applied to something, might not necessarily be its end all be all. You can actually redefine things, and that's what art is. You know, seeing something and then creating something beautiful from what we get to. We're observers, right?
Yeah.
It's a gift of being a human. We get to observe things. So we know music because we've heard music, but we get to create music with the same 7 notes.
Right.
You know, it's a beautiful thing. Anyway.
No, you're right.
This is not about me. Go ahead, Tim.
Oh, I love it. I think being growing up in a very religious homeschooled household was like I can't.
And I went to a private school, St. John, and you went to
Ocala Christian Academy in high school.
And you were the pitcher there.
I played pitcher and shortstop. Yeah, and then
and we got spanked when we didn't behave ourselves at school. How many kids get that now?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I just beat kids random. No, I'm just kidding.
No,
You're acting up. Stop. Like, sir, please.
Call the enforcer in.
Yeah. I actually have 2 dachshunds that'll just, bark at them. Any misbehaving kid. They hate kids. They don't know what's going on. I have a vegan bakery underneath.
Well, I mean, they're hounds. They're literally hound dogs.
Yeah, they're just announcing everything. But,
yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
No, that's great.
I digress.
No, that's all good. That's all good. Well, I mean, I tell you what, I've greatly appreciated sharing the stories. I know we're going to make a lot out of this. Charlie's going to cut, edit, do a bunch of tremendous stuff, but you've got some cool stuff going on.
I'm not going to cut anything out of this.
Yeah, he's going to cut a lot of stuff. Us hitting the table and everything else we've been doing. He'll edit it up, make it sound great. But no, man, cool. I appreciate you coming by, spend some time with us, and I've got a chance to work with you on a couple of projects. Man, it's been super awesome, and man, I've been very, very impressed and humbled with the opportunity to work with you, and having you here today. We greatly appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate everything you've done for me.
Is there an option for people who watch this to get in touch with you?
Oh, great point, Charlie. Thank you.
I'm again terrible at all this stuff, but at Timothy Lenoir Design is my Instagram, and then
at Timothy Lenoir
Design.
It's
on Instagram, and then that's kind of where
you're on LinkedIn too.
Yeah, but I mean my portfolio is on there, and then there's like my email address is my full name, TimothyLenoir@gmail.com. But yeah, like, I don't know. Dapper Skull is the name of my corporation I work under, which is DAPRSKL. And then
is this your company that I'm wearing?
That's
your brother's
Collector. That's my brother's company.
Yeah.
But yeah, I designed the hat, but I'm the creative
director.
I
love the hat you have on. I literally have never worn a hat so much to the point that it's got like my DNA like in it, everywhere.
That's kind of great.
So I'm really stoked. Thanks for bringing us some new swag, man.
No, absolutely. We appreciate it. Thank you much.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, glad people like it.
Yeah. Well, if you guys got any questions, hit Timothy up.
Yeah.
Hit him up on his IG. Hit him up on his email. And I can tell you, in working with him, super fast, super responsive, and will absolutely bring to life your creations. So give him a shot.
Dude, thanks, Wayne.
Thanks, man.
I got one more shot, I'm gonna make it. One more chance, I'm gonna take it. I meant it when I said it, now it's time for me to do it. I got one life to live, so I put my all into it, yeah.